Hey guys, Rudy here. I really wanted to talk about Father's Day. Father's Day and Mother's Day, actually. Happy Father's Day, any fathers out there. I know I got a couple of subscribers that are fathers, and I hope they're proud fathers because fatherhood is amazing. There isn't anything like it. Anybody out there who's thinking of starting a family, I would suggest just taking the leap and doing it. If you have financial woes, I mean, it'll work it out. It'll work out itself. Believe me, because once you have a child, your whole precepts about what life is about changes. At least it should. And the big wake up call for most people is having children. But as you all know, the things I talk about in this channel, that isn't the case for the vast majority of people. But it was the case for me. But that's not necessarily what this video is about. That could be a whole separate video that I could just go on for well over an hour ranting about. But I want to talk about Father's Day and Mother's Day, and I can give you the perspective of somebody who works in retail. It's very interesting to observe the difference between Mother's Day and Father's Day. And Mother's Day was just a short time ago, so it's easy. It's fresh in my mind. It's easy to compare the 2 days because I think it was a weekend. Mother's Day was the weekend last time as well. And on Mother's Day, the big difference is on Mother's Day, it's just like nonstop busyness, like 3 days prior to Mother's Day, 2 days prior. Like the whole weekend is just crazy. Like nonstop buying things, buying flowers, Hallmark cards, generic Mother's Day cards, just whatever, candy. Our candy aisle gets wiped out. Just anything people can get their hands on, wine, beer, buying everything for mama, right? You know how it goes. And I'm pretty sure you know where I'm going with this already. Father's Day is just like, it's busy on Father's Day, but it's nothing like Mother's Day. And it's debatable why that is, but if you've been watching me for as long as I've been doing this, which is about a year, it's been about a year. I started in July, so it's going to be a year. And my main point of this channel has been the focus on family and with a little bit of reality nonsense mixed in, because I think it's all related. I'm still feel like I'm in the process of wrapping around the topic, the reality breakdowns and its relationship to family, whether it be your blood family or the family you go off into the wilderness to create, which is what all men should be doing. All men should be doing that. Kind of off topic for just a second, just because it's on my mind. When a man and a woman get married, the way it should be is the woman comes into the man's life and starts a new family. But nowadays, that's been inverted. The world's upside down, right? Reality, talking about reality and its relationship to the family, where everything's upside down. No, I'm not the first person to say things like this. The upside down cross symbolizes the inverse nature of this reality that we're living in. So right now, the order of God is man over woman, woman over children, God over man. The man's the head of the household, and the woman is the head of the children. And that's not like a put down. I know a lot of women think that's a put down because automatically in their heads they think that they're going to be abused in some way, which is shouldn't be the case. But it does happen. It does happen. And the men who do that are awful. And but that's not what necessarily this video is about, but it does happen. I acknowledge that. Doesn't mean I'm going to go with it. But the woman is supposed to go into the man's life. The man's supposed to set out into the world, get away from his mama, get away from his blood family, and discover himself. And then a woman comes into his life. She follows him. They start a life together, and that's when the order is correct. That's the correct order. But nowadays we have a lot of little boys and grown men bodies. So they go into the woman's world, and that's when the problems start. because a lot of these men are still worshiping the mama. And this is my main point when it comes to Mother's Day, because, like I said, from a retail perspective, Mother's Day is crazy. Like, it's just like nuts, like just completely nuts with the impulse buying and making sure mama's happy, right? I've been over it so many times. Make sure wifey's happy, make sure mama's happy. Happy mama, happy wife, happy life. But Father's Day is just like, it's night and day. It really is night and day. Like, it gets a little busy, but it's nothing like Mother's Day. You don't see people buying roses. They're not buying candy. They buy more practical things that men like, because men are very simple. And any females listening, men are super simple. There's nothing complicated about them. They're basically, speak for myself, right? I'll speak for myself. I like utility. I like practicality. For instance, my wife and my daughter, they gave me practical things. Like, my wife bought me a new Bowie knife, the big giant Bowie knife. I was like, super cool. I was excited about that because I love machetes. I like knives, and this thing is huge. It's heavy. It feels good in the hands, and it's like, I love utility. She got me a new controller for my PC. Again, utility. It's something that's useful, something I could use right away. And a new neck pillow. Again, utility, something I can use immediately. Nothing useless like roses or candy. And candies, you can eat candy at least, right? But roses, cards, she didn't give me a card. It's like, men don't want cards, ladies. Like, for you wives or you daughters out there trying to say, what am I going to get my dad? Look, dads are simple. Get him a razor, get him shaving cream, things that they use. Get him a package of undershirts or underwear. Find out their waist size from your mother. Get him a new package of underwear. Like, that's the best thing. Like, utility. Men are super simple in that way, and that's why the business, quote unquote, the marketing is totally marketed towards women, because women need their egos satisfied when it comes to Mother's Day. Fathers don't need their ego satisfied. And I'm not saying all men, all fathers, because there are exceptions. Because you got a lot of, like I said, you got a lot of boys in men's bodies nowadays. So they have to have their ego stroked. And there are men like that. I'm not denying that. I'm tired of saying it at this point. When I make a blanket statement, I don't mean all. Like, period. There are exceptions to the rules. There's some men that maybe they like roses, whatever. Maybe they like chocolates. I mean, I'm okay with chocolates. If my wife would have got me a box of Cordell cherry chocolates or something, I'd be like, hey, that's good, awesome. But she didn't, which is great, because she gave me the most practical things that I could have ever wanted. And it's like, that's just the nature of men and the nature of women. And the night and day difference between Mother's Day and Father's Day is just so amazing to me. And I'd never really noticed this until this past Father's Day, where the store is just kind of empty. Not empty, like, it's busy enough, right? But for a holiday, it's empty. Like, that's insane to me. And I was talking to my coworker about it, and she agrees. Her and I are on the same page with a lot of things, especially when it comes to this woman and man thing. The roles that they're supposed to play, but they don't play, because the roles have been reversed. Re-listening to the recording that I just did made me want to emphasize one more point about what I said about God over men, men over women, and women over children, which that would be God over husband, God over man as the husband, and the man as the husband over the wife, and the wife over the children, which is the order of God. And I'm sure a lot of you would disagree with that, but I'm just giving you my humble ass opinion. Take it or leave it. But I want to re-emphasize this point of a lot of women don't like that idea, and some men might not either, just because they see it as tyrannical. Especially the women, they see it as a tyrannical kind of order. But as I said in the previous recording, a man isn't supposed to be a tyrant. It's the old idea of the tyrannical king. There's two types of leaders, two types of kings, let's just put it that way. There are two types of kings, the benevolent king and the tyrannical king. And You'll see these archetypes in movies, by the way. Little Mermaid's a good example. Not the remake, but the old 90s movie cartoon, Disney movie. And where King Trident is a bit of a tyrant, right? The whole reason Ariel is kind of led astray from her comfort zone, her peace, and she brings it all on herself. King Trident, there's a Freudian slip. King Trident essentially lords over Ariel. He tries to control her with fear. You have the one scene where he basically destroys her whole collection of artifacts. She had the statue of Eric. I'm just going off memory. I hadn't watched that movie in like 20 years. It's been well over 20 years. But he destroys the statue of Eric, Prince Eric, and all that stuff, all the trinkets and stuff she had. And that's a tyrant. Like, as a father, you don't act like that. And the mother figure obviously is Ursula. She is the spider mother. She's an octopus, right? She's got a lot of different arms that reach out. She's the archetype of the Oedipus complex, the spider mother, and then you have the tyrannical king, which is King Trident. But he's also kind, right? At the very end, he does what's right. He lets her go. He lets her get led by another man, a prince, right? A prince in shining armor, whatever. Even though he was kind of weak, Prince Eric wasn't that big of a role model in my opinion, but it is what it is. But King Trident was trying to do the right thing, and Ursula was just the ego-driven spider mother. But that archetype plays out in the world, and you could think of it. The reason I bring up the movie because it's easier to conceptualize these ideas through media, through stories. It's all over the Bible. I can't give any examples because nothing's coming to my head, but I'm sure it's in there. The spider mother, the tyrannical king. You get the idea of the tyrannical father or the tyrannical king all up and down the Bible. I don't even have to give examples because it's just, y'all know it's there. It's there. It's everywhere. King Herod, for example. I'll talk about that sometime because that's a big subject. But a lot of women, getting back to the main point, a lot of women see, when I say man over woman, woman over children, they see it as a tyrannical relationship where they're an abusive part of this situation, but it's not like that, and it shouldn't be like that. Man over woman just means a husband over, I guess the best way to put it is a husband over what he husbands over. Like a husband is like, you know what husbandry is, right? Like when you take care of your property, take care of your cattle, etc. And a lot of people like to twist the words and be like, oh, what are you trying to say? You're trying to say women are cattle. It's like, no, it's like really, really splitting hairs just to be an asshole, right? Because people just like to argue. Even though, and it's always a constant back and forth where I have to say, no, I don't mean that. No, I don't mean that. And it's ridiculous. Like, men are the protectors. Men are supposed to be the palace guards of their home. Right? They're supposed to protect their property, protect their children, protect their animals, protect their wives. That's what they're built to do, and it's not an insult. It's not a burden. Men are designed to be the guardians. They're designed to be the leaders. In the same way, the mothers are designed to be over the children, to have the babies, to make sure the house is in order, to make sure the husband is taken care of. That's the order because that's what these roles are built for. And I know there's going to be exceptions to the rules. There's exceptions in the Bible as well. But we've been going against this order for the past 200 years, if you believe the history. Just for argument's sake, the past 200 years in the United States, we've been going against this, against the conservatism, right? Against tradition. To the point where we're in the situation we're at now with everything. Do I even have to name specifics? Like, the world is a mess. This country's a mess. The United States is in an absolute disarray. And it's still the best place on earth, despite all of that. And it's incredible that it's even close to being stable in the way it is, despite the mess. But man over woman, like that, it's not an insult. It's something to be proud of. The same way a man should be proud of being a husband. Like, It's an honor to be a husband. It's an honor to be a father. In the same way, a woman should be honored to be a mother, honored to be a mother and a wife. It's not an insult to be these things. And it's just amazing to me the way the media tries to twist words. Like anybody could just twist my words right now and say, oh, you just want to lord over women, or you want to lord over the children. You want to use God as an excuse to lord over your wife. It's like it's not even close to being like that, man. It's like, it's ridiculous. I get so tired of hearing of it. The media, these politicians are just a bunch of demons out to destroy the family. The nuclear family is the enemy, according to them. And it's very obvious with their policies and their procedures and their plans and what they say on television. It's just super obvious to me. But anyway, guys, I think that about wraps it up. If I have more to add, obviously I'll just add it later like I'm doing now. But that's been on my mind for a while. Had to get it off my chest. Just maybe giving you a different perspective, because the things that I say you've probably never heard. And if you had heard it, let me know. Like, if you've heard these things before, tell me where, because I'd love to listen to other people say these things as well, because it's a breath of fresh air. I wanted to make one more point about the order of God, to reemphasize God over man, man over woman, women over children. And I think the big question is, how should a woman go about, or how should a woman go about picking a man? Because if it's not inside of her already, if it's not in her spiritually to follow a husband, or let's say, just to give an example, she's interested in a guy, they date for a while, they date for a specific time, I can't really give a specific time, and she thinks he's the one, he thinks she's the one, but if she's not willing to follow him and let him be the leader of the relationship, it's not going to work. So, like the situation we have now, where I've pointed it out in past videos, where if you just watch couples in public, like you go to the grocery store, I think everybody here goes to the grocery store. It's going to be a universal thing. So this is a good litmus test, I guess you can say. Don't even know if I'm using that right, but I'm going to say it anyway. A good test yourself. Next time you go to the grocery store, just watch couples. It don't matter who it is. It can be mama and son. It could be a husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend. Just watch them, and just to get a beat on what their relationship might be like. And I guarantee you, the majority of the time, it's going to be the husband following the wife, or the boyfriend following the girlfriend. And you can just get an idea of how the relationship's going, where it's very obvious they're not taking the lead. And that's not, like, those guys aren't men. They're little boys living out this Oedipus complex with their girlfriends or with their wives. They don't have it in them to lead. And the woman that he's following doesn't have it in her spiritually to follow. So the roles are reversed. And I said it so many times. The world is upside down. Men think they're women. Women think they're men. The transgender thing's a good example, but it goes deeper than that. Like the transgender thing is just a symptom of something far deeper in regards to what's going on spiritually with the world, and it's all over the world. There's like no exceptions at all, because I don't know if I've talked about this, but my wife and I, every now and then, we like to watch Korean dramas, South Korean dramas. I don't think there's a such thing as North Korean dramas, but they're drama/comedies usually. And the Koreans are so good at making interesting stories, and they can't get away from these archetypes either. The mythos, like these mythical narratives. You can see the same Adam and Eve stories play out, even in these Korean films or these Korean shows. And it's like a whole series. Like, they have seasons. This one interesting, I can't name one off the top of my head, but there's always that dynamic of where the man is like incapable of leading, or if the man is capable of leading, it's like dealing with a wild horse, like trying to ride a wild horse when it comes to the female. Like, it's, say, for instance, the protagonists of the show, it's usually romance comedies. So the female lead is usually very strong-minded, very strong-willed, and she's looking to be controlled. She wants order. She wants basically a father figure in a way, only looking for that in a boyfriend or a husband. And the guy may or may not, it just depends on the show, they may or may not have it in them to be a lead, to be a leader in the relationship of the household. And a lot of times the show's about, and they don't explicitly say this, I'm just kind of projecting this onto it because this is what I'm seeing in people, in real life, and in these shows. Like, they can't get away from these archetypes. These writers, it's something inside of them that they just can't get away from. They don't necessarily understand what they're doing. For instance, when I mentioned My Little Mermaid, and they give a perfect example of the Oedipus complex and the tyrannical king, they're not literally thinking King Trident is the tyrannical king and Ursula is the Oedipus mother or the spider mother. They're not thinking that literally. It's just something that comes about because these archetypes and this mythology is written in the human soul, in our hearts. So these Korean shows can't get away from that either. Like, it does it all around the world. That's why I mentioned it's all around the world. One time I watched a documentary where they were talking about the boomer generation in Japan, and I swear to God, guys, boomers all over the world, even a place like Asia and Japan, are just the same kind of selfish me generation. That's the boomer generation, me generation, me. And I really need to do a presentation on that, because there's a specific video I want to go over that goes over the boomer generation in Japan, and it's super interesting. I was like, oh my God. And I call it so easily. Like, I just call these things ahead of time as I was watching it, and I'll have to watch it again but it's like I was watching it with my wife, and I was just calling it ahead of time, the things that were going on. And it was a documentary about the boomer generation in Japan. It was about them planning for funerals and like the funeral planning industry in Japan, and it was super interesting. The boomer generation all over the planet is just like, man, I want to say they're just pieces of shit, but yeah, that's it. Like, what else can I say? Like, so self-indulgent and greedy. It's just, oh my God. Anyway, I talk about boomers way too much on this channel. Especially the past like 3 or 4 months. Because a lot of the problems stem from them, but as I've said before, it stems from the generation before that and the generation before that. And it goes all the way back to these two assholes named Adam and Eve. And again, with the Oedipus complex, it's like Adam went along with what Eve and Lucifer had collaborated with a snake. Some people didn't think that Lucifer was a snake, but it's whatever, man. These archetypes, this mythology is it's all out there. And you see the same shit playing out. You see the same crap playing out in the modern day. And when it comes to females and picking husbands and picking boyfriends, they become the mother figure, and it's ancestral. Ancestral, I think I'm saying that right. It's incest, basically. And it's disgusting, it's gross. Like, men are leaders. Men are supposed to be leaders. Like I said in the previous segment. And again, to reemphasize, I'm not trying to put women down. I'm not trying to put their role down. I think women are very, very capable of being leaders as well if they know when to step back, because it has to be in them though. It can't be artificial. I can't just tell a woman, or let's say for instance, a priest can't just tell a couple that's going to get married that she needs to obey her husband. He can't do that. He can't do that, but it's not going to work out because it needs to be inside of the woman already to understand that order of God, that what's inside her isn't the same, let's just say, creature that's inside of the man. The spirit, let's say spirit. It's a better word, I think. Like it's two different roles, two different spirits. They each have their purpose, but that order needs to be understood, and it needs to be, and obey is not the right word, but we're stuck in this trap of English language. So obey is the best word I got, I think. It's more like a knowing rather than obeying. It just has to be within you. It has to be within you to be able to follow your husband. And it needs to be within the man to be a man in the relationship, to be the husband, to be the father. It just needs to be in him already. And it can be a growing process. Like, let's say I'm talking to a couple and I explain these things and I say to them, if you two want it to work out for you and your children, this is the order of God, but it needs to be a collaboration. Like, you two need to talk about these things and understand that you have your roles, and but you have a chance to grow into it. Like, it's not all or nothing. Like, for instance, I talked about Emily that one time where I pointed out to her the customers that were coming in, and I said, look at the way these husbands are following their wives like they're little boys, and she thinks it's kind of gross, and she sat on it for like a day or two, and she finally came back at me and said, you know what, I can't help but see it now, and now that I see it, I think it's, I don't know if she said gross, but now that she sees it, she sees that weakness in her own boyfriend, her baby daddy. They weren't married, but they have a child, and she can't help it. Like the imagination goes wild, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it's like, what are the implications for their family? What are the implications for their daughter, their newborn daughter? And it's like, she approached him and said, you need to be a man. You need to lead. You need to put me in my place when I'm out of control, because I see how these other couples are acting and I don't like it. And she's like total, how do I put this? She's a total liberal type, but she's smart, and that's what I liked about her. And I think she liked me because she knew I was a conservative type, but she liked me because I didn't judge her. And I'm like that with like everyone I meet. I don't judge, I don't pass judgment, but I'm not afraid to say what's on my mind and how I view things. And it's a take it or leave it attitude with me. It's like, I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm not judging you. I've been there. I know where you're coming from. I've been there. So it's like, I understand the mentality of these more liberal types. And she was very reasonable to talk to. So she was more open to these ideas. And it's not like I had an agenda. I didn't like talk to her with the agenda of like getting her to wake up or anything. I just kind of brought it up because I find it very humorous with these grown men following their ladies, like their children, like their sons, like mommy and son, like a grown-ass man following his mom in the store. Like, no leadership, no nothing. And I've seen men that go in there and they're leaders. You can tell that the wife is behind them, and it's not disrespectful, because I've seen couples like that before too, where you can just kind of tell the husband is kind of lording over her. You can just kind of tell where the husband is tyrannizing her. And that's on them. Like, I don't really feel strongly opinionated about it one way or another, if that's the case, because she put herself in that situation. She can get out of it. And it's on them. It's their marriage. I mean, I'm not even going to say if it's right or wrong. That's it by this point, because it is what it is. Like, if you're in an abusive relationship, you need to get out. That's all I got to say. It's on you by that point, because you're an adult. There's systems put in place to protect you, no matter what your gender is. Even if you're a male getting abused by your spouse, you can go to the cops. Like, we live in the United States where the court system will take your side if it needs to. Maybe not every state, but I know in Louisiana you can. Like, husband abuse is a thing, okay? But a lot of males don't come forward because they think the system's against them, and they have every reason to believe that the system's against them, because it is in a lot of ways, especially the child support system. It's crooked, to say the least, and it's a collaboration between judges and these nasty mothers. Not all, right? Anyway, guys, I think it's about covers it. I said before, to a lot of you, I'm speaking in tongues. You're not going to understand a damn word I'm saying. You're gonna brush me off as some lunatic conservative, Christian conservative who just wants to beat women, or whatever the hell you want to think by this point. It doesn't matter. But to the people out there who are open to these ideas, thank you so much for your time. Leave a comment. We can have a discussion. I love talking to you guys. Like, I really do. Like, oh my God. I had such a cool conversation with one dude. I'm not going to say his name. One dude in my community post, we had like a 15 comments conversation. That was super cool. I thought that was super cool. It was so exciting to like talk to people that are willing to listen and are seeking, and that they'll give their point and I'll give my point, and we just come to kind of come to a consensus, even if we disagree about something. It's cool because it's like, no hard feelings, right? But I don't think we're disagreeing on anything. I'm just giving an example. Anyway, leave a comment. I don't care if you like the video, to be honest. If you want to share it with a friend, go for it. Thank you so much. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.